Okay, so here's the deal, guys. This week's pretty simple. I have to prepare for Vegas. So, I've written a list. How am I going to get there? Where am I going to stay? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty self explanatory. We got three things here about Cassie. Cassie is the name of my car. Wash, service, and clean out. I'm not talking about, the missus. Well, I am talking about the missus because my missus is a car. I've got to get some cash for my June and July rent in Portland and pay that. And I have to pack my shit. They said it's gonna be about a half-hour wait. We're gonna go down the road to the gym and see if we can't do something about the noodles, the noodle arms. Man, it's hotter than a beef vindaloo out here. Oil change. Tick. Maybe I should hold on to that one. For one night. Stay in Reno. It's going to take me about 10 hours to get there. I'm going to do that all in one day and then plan to leave the next day and arrive in Vegas on the 30th of May. So, fingers crossed Cassie can make the trip. Boom. Okay, so today we're doing something slightly different. I'm not sure how many hours I'll put in, but I think it should be slightly different. They might have mixed games going. Sometimes they play some stud games, some badoogie, stuff like that, which I'll explain a bit later if the games run. What I'm hoping is that there'll be big Omaha tables, big O tables, and to try and avoid them. Good luck, fellas. Last night we played a session. We were up about $500 at one point, and then things went horribly sour. We ended up in a 2-5 Omaha mix game. We had 4-card PLO high, we had 5-card PLO high, we had 4-card PLO high low, and we had Big O, which is 5-card Omaha high low. I ended up getting tore up for $900. So not a good result at all. Over the last week or so, we're down about $1,100. So a little bit of a mini downswing. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm also kind of getting sick. Thought I'd change up the location here a little bit. The weather is nice.
I don't know, might be good for my sickness to be outside in the nice warm weather, and plus it's just a nicer location to do some hand analysis. I got a couple of hands for you today. They're both Omaha hands, both high only hands. One is in 4 card, standard PLO, and one is in 5 card, which I had actually never played before. Before I go into them, I just wanted to say that I have not played a lot of the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. That's a shout out to Joey Ingram there. So take my analysis with a grain of salt, doing the best I can with the hand analysis, and I'll be honest, I probably butchered both hands, but that's for you to decide, and it might be interesting just to go over them anyway. I'd be interested in your thoughts once you've had a watch and see how I could have played the hands differently. Anyway, let's get into it. The first hand is in standard 4 card Pot Limit Omaha. It's a 9-handed game. There are 3 limps in front of me, and I'm in the cutoff. I look down, ace, 4, king, king, no suits. I decided to limp in. This hand is kind of a fit or fold type situation on the flop. It either flops top set or ace, king straight or nothing. In hindsight, I think this is probably a fold because our hand's not particularly well connected. We have no suits, and the 4 is kind of redundant in our hand. Really, we're only looking at flop top set, but given that I had position, it just being a limp pot, I decided to limp in. The button who had straddled checked his option. Let's take a flop. The flop comes down king, jack, 6 with 2 hearts. Needless to say, I mean, that's a pretty good flop for us. We flop top set. It checks round to me, and I put out a bet of $20. I put out the bet to get value from flush draws, lower sets, wraps. Strangely, the button min clicks me to $40. The button wasn't a particularly strong player. I didn't really know what his min click meant. It didn't make a lot of sense when I'm holding top set. I guess he could have a wrap flush draw type thing, but given he was the button straddle and didn't raise, that also seemed kind of unlikely to me. Anyway, the big blind then cold calls the $40. He looked visibly uncomfortable making the call. I think we have a couple of options here. I think we could raise and just get the money in here. We've got the best hand, we know that, but it is vulnerable with a flush and straight draw on board. Or we could just call and look to play turn cards. There are a lot of safe turns for us, which we could comfortably bang it in there with, and there are a lot of bad turns that we can easily just muck on. The reason that I didn't like calling so much was that we don't have absolute position here. The button has position on us and is the aggressor and has taken the initiative in the pot. And I wasn't really sure what the small blind had. His cold call didn't make a lot of sense to me, and he did look reluctant. I thought that by putting in a pot-sized raise here, I could push out the small blind and go heads up with the button. So I made the pot-sized raise. The button puts his chips in there, no problem. It's got about 180 left. Then the small blind tanks for a while and eventually puts all his chips in. He's got over 200 more than the button, so there is a side pot between me and him. Kind of strange that he put his chips in here. I didn't expect him to do that. But, you know, once I put the raise in on the flop, I'm going with my hand. And so we get all the chips in. We run out 2 boards, but we're only running the second board for the side pot. So the first board is for the main pot because the button only wanted to run it once. The first board runs out blank, which is good for us, and then a heart, which basically has us instantly dead against 2 opponents. The second board runs out blank and then a queen, which brings us straight. Fortunately, the small blind who was in on the second board for the side pot did not make the straight on the second board. So we end up chopping. A little bit disappointing result because both opponents had a flush draw, and I even had a 4 of hearts blocker. So it would have been nice if the boards were flipped and I would have scooped the $700 main pot and then chopped the side. So I guess that's Omaha. Swingy game. Second hand is 5 card Pot Limit Omaha high only. There's a min raise from under the gun, 1 call in front of me. I call from the cutoff, the button calls, and the big blind completes. So we're 5 ways to a flop. The flop is pretty good for us. We flop the second nuts with a set of 5s, a nut flush redraw, and a gut shot to the second nut straight with ace 4. It checks to me and I bet $35. The button calls and everybody else folds. The button is a weak, passive kind of player, an older guy, and I'm not too concerned with his call. If he'd had a set of queens, he probably would have raised me, so at this point I think we have the best hand. The turn comes the 10 of spades, which brings a spade flush draw, but it also gives us a gut shot to Broadway. I bet full pot, or close to. I think I bet $105, and he calls. The river is the ace of diamonds, which brings two straights. Now King Jack got there, and 3-4 got there. Not a particularly good card for us. So I elect to check, and the button bets $200. I don't like this spot at all, and to be honest, inexperience in 5-card Omaha kind of got the better of me here. I folded my hand and showed the pair of fives for my set of fives, and the button said, "Good hand, you had me." So I don't know, I guess it was a bad fold. I think replaying the hand, a better way to have played it would have been to check raise the turn and commit myself. That way I think we have more fold equity because the pot size bet is going to be larger and it makes it harder for our opponent to call. The risk we run there obviously is if our opponent checks back, then not so good for us, but I guess it makes it a more manageable call for us on the river. So I think that is probably where I would have played the hand differently, is to check raise that turn. Pre-flop, I have no idea whether that's a good hand or not. That's the first time I played that game, so, I thought a suited ace with 3 wheel cards couldn't be too bad. That's the end of the hand analysis, and yeah, I'd be interested in your thoughts. I'd never played the 5-card version, so interested to hear from anyone that's played that before, or if you have any thoughts on how we could have played the hands differently or how you would have played the hands, leave them in the comments below.